Okay, my friends, is there something about this time of year that calls out all the crazy parents and puts them into your inbox or in front of you? Or, sometimes if we make one little change to things, it feels like it ruffles everyone's feathers in the studio. And here's the deal, it could be totally overwhelming when you have all the balls in the air, the costumes, comp season, the end of year recitals. And so this week, in this week's episode, I'm going to really dive into why it's so important to approach things objectively and remember that perspective is everything. If you're joining me, say, hey, Erin, what's up? Let me know that you're here. I always know who I want to know. Are you here with me when we're having this call? And if you've stumbled upon us somehow, I'm Erin Bird. I am your hostess with the mostest here. And I work with studio owners and educators to really grow their businesses without the burnout, the overwhelm, or sacrificing of their personal lives. Because the truth is, you don't have to. You can have the business and the life of your dreams. You just have to be willing to do a little bit of work to get there. Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, depending on where you're at in the world. Hello there, my friends. Let me know that you're here. I always want to know. Also, if you come back in on the replay, we want to know that as well. So just drop a little hashtag replay and let us know that you're coming in on the replay and join the conversation. We love to learn out loud here. So we like to lean in and use our keyboards here and really make it a conversation. So, when something hits home or resonates with you, or you have that little moment of like, ooh, that's a good little nugget, I would love for you to share it in the comments below because it helps anchor it in for others. For those who come back in on the replay, for ourselves, when we write something down or we type it out, it helps anchor in ideas. So please, please, please be part of an active conversation. This is not about me just chat, talking away all morning long. Good morning, Michelle. Good afternoon now for you. And my friends, if you'd like a copy of today's show notes, drop the word show notes below. And as soon as they're ready, they will be uploaded and we will send them on over to you so you can have kind of like a little speedy recap of what we talked about today. So, as we dive in right now, I need to know in the comments, does it feel like people get a little bit bananas this time of year, a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs this time of year? I want to know, do you feel that way in your studio? Do you feel like people are a little extra right now? Or do you feel like parents are asking you the same questions over and over and over again? Do you feel like sometimes staff are being a little bit bananas? I want to know, how's it going inside your studio this time of year? Because it is a busy, crazy time of year for us, for parents, for students. It is for here, especially in the US, it is the end of the school year for so many, and there are so many activities happening right now um, because of the time of year it is. So I need to know, how are people behaving right now for you? I'm gonna take a little drink while I wait for y'all in the comments. Hmm. I'm like that, like taking my dance teacher a moment. I'll wait for you. I'll wait. I did do that in class yesterday when I was teaching. Anybody else? I'll wait. Or all you all? Okay, thank you. People are pretty sane in your world. That makes my heart so happy to hear. Um, I have been reading inside of some of the wonderful Facebook groups that we have where people are like, oh my gosh, this parent is asking me for a detailed, itemized, list of the costs of producing our show. No, ma'am. Right? And or like, oh my gosh, parents are just telling me so and so can't make recital because, XYZ, and they've known about it forever. Okay. um, okay, so when you have these mostly good occasional cray cray caused by stress and that you didn't cause, right? Yes. So this is why today's topic is so important, about really perspective is everything, right? And we have to be objective when we are approaching things, because sometimes when we are getting ready to do either of these major shows, or we have comp season, or right, like there's so many things happening, and it can feel, and this is a key, it can feel a bit overwhelming, or it can feel like everybody is upset with XYZ, or won't be happy when you change this, or right, or we tell ourselves that one or two equal the whole. And that's really not the truth. You have, if we look at how many students you have, so if you tell me, Erin, I have 120 or 150 students, let's just say, and you're like, oh my gosh, if I change my tuition structure, everyone's going to be upset and they're going to leave. And I'm like, is that really a truth or a feeling? Most of the time, it's a feeling. Like 99.9% of the time, it's just a feeling, not a fact. And so perspective is everything. And we have to really look at things objectively. And if we could place ourselves on the outside looking in, you are going to find that a lot of times when you have that cray cray parent, or you have fear because of changes that you want to implement, they're really not facts, they're really feelings. And it's okay to feel, right? I mean, I live in a place where I've intentionally told myself facts before feelings, right? Facts before feelings. And then once you know that, you could sprinkle in, now, how does this feel to me? Intuition. Like we can add those layers in. But I always start with, is this a fact or is this a feeling? And then if it's something that I'm like, oh, I always like to say, okay, if one of my good friends was to tell me what was going on, what advice would I give her? And most of the time it's very objective advice. But when it's you and you're in it and whatnot, it can be really hard to separate that and be objective in that moment. So right now I want to know, do you have someone in your corner that knows and understands your business, right? Because our industry is unique, it's special. And so, do you have someone in your corner that you go to when you have these big things and you want to bounce ideas off of? Or you have that cray cray parent, right? Do you have someone who you go to regularly to discuss those things that can be objective for you and remove the feelings from the facts? Let me know in the comments below. Let me give myself a little drink here. Let me know. This can be a friend, it could be a parent, it might be, do I know her? It could be a mentor, a coach. It could be, right? Yes. So do you have someone in your corner who can be objective? Oh, so good, right? So yes, you need someone in your corner, whether it is a parent, a friend, a mentor, a coach, right? Who can absolutely be objective and look through things through a different lens than you can sometimes. Sometimes when you're in, it's hard to see the forest for the trees because you are so in it that it's hard to really see objectively what is going on. And so I always say, like, that could be super helpful. It's helpful for me. The big thing that I have to tell you guys is this. Now, while I am a firm believer in community, right? So inside of our group programs and things, we have an amazing community where they all share with each other and they kind of give their perspectives of things, maybe what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. But there's nothing in it for them other than being supportive. Now, I have to tell you, some of the other groups that are out there, like I said, I've been seeing some things in some Facebook groups, and we have to remember that some of these free groups, while they're fantastic, in their own right, and they serve a lot of great purpose in their own right. Sometimes there's some really bad advice out there that people give. And there's also people who can't see objectively. They're like, well, this worked in my studio, so it has to work in your studio. That's not necessarily the case. And so I don't know if you've ever heard this, but like, please, my friends, don't be so quick to drink from everyone's cup that you end up poisoned, right? I had someone tell me the other day, I asked someone for advice and they gave me advice, and I followed it, and it was terrible advice. But I felt like I was in a place where I didn't know, like I felt almost desperate, like in a bad place. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good day. But I was in a place where I just felt almost like desperate, and I was going, like I'm grasping at straws. And so they said, try this, or this will work for you. And then it didn't. And it was actually, now that I look back at it, it was really bad advice. So please, my friends, um, be mindful of who you are taking advice from. Do you know them well enough, or do you believe their advice to be good and true, right? Perspective is everything. And so we have to remember that as we are keeping things in perspective, being objective, right? And going at things from a fresh lens. Okay, so since everyone's telling me that like they're not having so much cray cray happening, that makes my heart so happy, because sometimes it's hard to keep things objective when you're in it. Perspective is key, right? And one of the things that I truly, truly believe is if we can live in a place, and I'm not, let me be honest with you guys, I'm not a super woo woo person, okay? But I do believe that how we show up in the world is kind of what comes back to us. So if you are a very negative and pessimistic person, if you're very skeptical, then you're not going to have a lot of good things coming your way all the time, right? Or you're not going to allow them to come into your world because you're so skeptical and like have this wall. But if you live in a place that you can remind yourself that there's good people out there, there's people who are love exactly what I offer, who we are, who we're being. If you can live in a place where you see silver linings, if you can be grateful for every failure or every door that's been closed because it's allowed new ones to open for you, I can tell you guys that the world becomes your oyster, right? Like there literally is nothing you can't accomplish if you truly believe in yourself and in what you bring to the table. You know, um, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is simply just taking action. And I think that shifting sometimes our perspective of things, of remembering that one does not equal the many. So when you have that one parent who's like, I need an itemized statement of what recital costs so I know whether, get on with yourself. Good day. No one is keeping you here. You don't go to the grocery store and ask them, well, how much did you pay for that loaf of bread? You don't go to a restaurant and say, I'm ordering this, but I need to know, what was your hard cost for food? What's your labor cost? And then, no, you don't do that, right? And so there's hard lines. We do not, exactly, right? We just don't do that. So I don't know who you are to think that I'm going to share that information with you. Now, I also believe in a bit of transparency, and and maybe it's not the right approach. But I will say, well, the theater alone costs us $10,000 to rent, right? I maybe not give them an itemized, but just so you know, just the theater cost alone is $10,000. So this is why we have to charge for recitals. But here's a breakdown of what your recital, you pay X amount for recital tickets, you pay X amount for costumes, you pay X amount, whatever, what their cost is. But it is none of their business what you are paying to hold a recital. Okay? So if you have that person, there's the door. Right? Firm boundaries. Right? Firm boundaries. And this goes with all sorts of examples, my friends. But remember, please, one does not equal the many. And sometimes when you have one or two who start to question you or who start to, you hear the grumblings, then they are not the right fit and they don't share the feelings of everyone inside your studio. They're just loud and annoying, honestly. Right? And so, yes, seriously, just trust what I'm doing or go somewhere else. No one is forcing them to stay there. And if they don't like it, it's a choice and they can leave. Okay? So remember that. And please, my friends, this is where, I really love step one when I'm working with studio owners a lot is that step one is like, who are you? What is your vision? What is your big why? How are you living into that? What are your values? Right? Because that allows you to get crystal clear on who you are, who you be as a studio, and then call in the right people into your studio that are the right fit and that are meant to be there. Yes, every once in a while you'll have a sneaky one sneak in there and you will come to realize that they are not the right fit. And you might have to have that hard conversation of, hey, you're probably going to be happier down the street at XYZ because we cannot give you what you want. When you know who you be, when you know who you are as a studio, when you have that and you're crystal clear, you don't feel like you need to change your policies for people. You don't feel like you need to try something different to accommodate. You don't feel, no, it's like, this is who I am. And this is what we do, right? So we have to get crystal clear on who we are as a person, if you don't know that, but as a business, because that sets the culture for your studio, not only for your families, your students, but your staff. It helps your staff be on board. You have to be clear on who you are. And as silly as this sounds, I talk to a lot of studio owners who don't really know who they are, who they want to be as a studio. They either say, oh, well, this is how it was when I was growing up, so I feel like that's who I have to be. Or I bought this studio from someone and this is who they are, so it's guess how I have to be, but it doesn't really align with my values, right? So then you're conflicted and then you're not, it's hard to be objective because when people are like, oh, well, this is how you've always done it, why are you changing it? Well, the answer is easy because just because we've done something one way forever doesn't mean that's how we have to do it forever, right? And it's not working for us. But my friends, if you and I go back, I want you guys to know this. As a business and as a person, you should always be evolving. So just because you started out and you were a solopreneur and you loved that you knew every single one of your students, but then you decided you got to a place where you're like, oh, I'd really like to grow and I'd like to take on some new staff and I'd like to, right? That's okay. You should be evolving and your business should be evolving, which means things have to change. If you've done things the same way for 35 years and never made a single change, and you're wondering why you don't have as many students as you used to, my dad had told me something about business. He said, be willing to change or be willing to perish. Those are your two choices. And so because business, society changes and society evolves, and I'm so glad that this is resonating with you. But we don't have to. You know what I should do? Have you guys ever looked at the evolution of Apple's branding over the years? They have not stayed the same logo and branding. They have changed over the years. And I'd say they've done pretty well for themselves, if I do say so, right? Their business evolved, right? Yes. And we have to individually be evolving, right? As we grow and we learn, we should be taking these lessons to heart and knowing what do we need to do to become the next level version of ourselves, right? Life should be teaching you lessons, good and bad, but they should be teaching you lessons. Okay, so my friends, how do we do this? It's really coming into being crystal clear about what would I love? What would be my dream day? Like if I got up in the morning, what would that look like? And seriously writing it down. When I walk into the studio, I feel XYZ, right? Oh, I'm like, I just want to sing to her now. No, I'm gonna just. I love it. Oh, it makes my heart so happy. Okay, so how are we evolving? Take the time. I revisit my goals, my vision, who I'm showing up as in the world. Every single quarter, every 3 months, I take time, I set time aside in my schedule to really think about what's the next level? What's the next thing that I want to do? What's on my heart? How do I serve my community better? And we look at those things and I take them to heart. There are programs that we've had in the past that we've X'd out because while they got great results for my clients, they didn't make my heart happy. And so they didn't make my heart happy. And so it wasn't in alignment with where I was going. So I'm like, okay, we need to take this program away and we're going to rethink and reimagine some things where it's great for my clients, but it's great for me. Right? And it makes my heart happy because it is in alignment with my values. Okay. So don't be afraid to do that. If something isn't bringing you joy, I just told one of my clients the other day, I want you to live in two places, right? Like when I say that, it is either the tasks we were talking about tasks and everyone has this long to-do list. And I know I'm just kind of talking right now about all the things. So I hope you guys don't mind, but we're talking about the to-do list right now, right? And that they're like a million miles long. I mean, if we're being honest, my to-do list is kind of bananas as well. But the two places that we should be living in when we look at our to-do list is this bringing money in? Is this creating revenue for me? Is this right? Is this a revenue generating activity that's on my to-do list? Or does it bring me joy? Those two places. And if the things on the to-do list are not under one of those two buckets, then we should be looking about, can we just not do it? Can we delegate it? Or does it need to be done right now? Right? And so this is coming into perspective and objective as well. So it actually does apply because sometimes we're like, we tell ourselves, oh my gosh, all of these things have to be done. And how am I going to possibly get these all done? And if we look at them objectively, we're like, does that really need to be done? If you were to give me my to-do list, would I be like, oh yes, every single one of these things needs to be done on your list by you? Or am I going to go through that list and be like, why do you feel like you need to do that? What's the why behind this? And if you say, oh, well, it really brings me joy. Okay, great. Or if you're like, well, because it's just all the stuff that has to get done. And, I'm the only one who knows how to do it. Or, it's easier for me to just do it than to try to teach someone. Or because you know what I'm going to say, right? Probably know what I'm going to say because I'm an objective third party outside, like I'm over here, and I can objectively look at your list and say, Is this really the best use of your time? Okay. So, perspective, my friends, is everything. And I want to ask a question for y'all because I think this could be super helpful, but we need to use the comments section. We need to be in the chat here. When you are faced with something and you need some perspective, what do you do to help you gain the perspective and be objective in that situation that you need? What are some things that you do, right? So I'm going to give you some examples that we use over here in our camp, and while you guys drop them in the chat for us, okay? So some of the things that we do over here when we need to be objective and gain some, look at our perspective on things is we step away. So number one, I step away if I'm like, ugh, I need to gain some clarity around this. I need to really like collect my thoughts before I respond or whatnot. I go on a walk or I jump on the treadmill or I go play with my dogs or my kids, right? That's number one. The other thing is I might send something to someone, my coach, my business coach, that might be someone. I might send a question over to a really trusted friend. I might have, my right hand gal take a look at it and say, yeah, am I reading too much into this? Because in emails and texts and that sort of thing, you can't read tone, you can't read facial expressions, you can't write. So sometimes we have to take a moment to do that. Oh, I love these. Thank you guys for jumping in here. Okay, so let's see. Walk away and take a beat. None of it is urgent that it requires me to. Okay, thank you. We are not talking about life and death situations in our industry for the most part. None of us need to respond to people right away. Now, I'm not saying string people on for days and days and days on end, but yes, we can take away, step back, don't be impulsive, think before reacting. Yes, you can wait 24 hours to respond. And then, yes, put yourself in their shoes and really look at what was my role or my teacher's role or whatever in this situation. How can we have done it better? Right? And then, yes, send things to your coach for review. So, if we could take a beat, step away to help gain perspective. And the other thing that I really like to do, which I know might sound a little bit funny, is I think about before I respond is if I were to send this to my Grammy, would I be proud of myself? A, would I be proud of myself? Would she be offended? Right? And which might sound funny, but it's really a great way to think because, like, I would never, I mean, you know, one of my grandmothers is passed, both actually two grandmothers are passed away, but I would never ever be snarky to my grandmother. I would never in a million years, like, have a rude tone or any of that. You can find it in your parent handbook, right? Like I would never do that. And so sometimes just taking a beat and saying, if I sent this to my grandmama, would I be proud of myself? Because believe me, I have all those feelings too sometimes, you guys. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So walking away, taking a moment, taking a beat, it really helps me to put things in perspective, be objective, and answer accordingly. Okay. So my friends, I hope that you could walk away today with the reminders that really perspective is key on anything in our world, right? And being objective helps us navigate things. But the true nut and bolts of it is if we know and we're crystal clear on who we are as a person, who we are as a business, what our values are, what our vision is, who we want to be in the community, then it allows us to set really firm boundaries and uphold them. And then it's really easy to be objective when those situations arise. Um, okay. Oh my gosh. My two grandmothers had snark down. I love it. They had no patience. Oh my gosh. That makes me laugh so much. And you know what? I mean, if we're being honest, I'm thinking about like my two grandmothers, and they too also had snark, sarcasm, and sass. Let me tell you, I think I probably got a little bit of it. That being said, I don't know if you guys really, sometimes I am. I'm just very no nonsense. I don't know if everybody knows that about me. But I get that from my grandmas for sure. But and yes, sometimes my face can't hide things, and it is who I am, and I don't apologize for it. Y'all know it. I can't hide things on my face. So so anywho, my hope is though that you take away a little bit of nuggets, that good reminder this time of year that perspective is everything. Because sometimes we tell ourselves the one equals the many, and it really doesn't. Okay. And that sometimes we do things and we're like, oh my gosh, nobody reads all their recital information. I'm answering the same thing over and over and over. So, but really, again, we talk about is the one the many, or the few the many. One doesn't equal the whole. And it doesn't mean you necessarily need to change everything. That's something that I talk about with my clients quite often, but it's really like, let's just keep it in perspective, right? And if you were here last week, you can't please everyone, and you really shouldn't try. The ones who are meant to be with you will be happy as a clam. No, oh, love no filters. So good. So good. Um, so good. Love it. Okay. All right, my friends, I'm going to leave you there. I hope that you have a fantastic week. I know a lot of us are going into like I've had so many who are actually starting their shows this weekend coming up. So, you know, no matter where you're at in the recital game or comp season, you guys keep perspective, be objective as possible, and know that we all deserve a little bit of grace during this time of year. Us, our students, and our parents. We all can give a little bit of a little grace, and really understand that it's a busy and tough time of year, right? So let's be kind, and let's sprinkle a little joy everywhere we go. I hope that y'all have a fantastic week. I will see you next week for another episode of the Aaron Bird Live Show, where we talk about business and mindset and strategy and tips and tricks. And again, hopefully a little joy that helps fill your cup for the week. So I'm going to leave you there. Have a fantastic week, my friends. And I will see you all very, very soon. Bye, guys.